you are listening to the Kinetic Man Podcast. I'm Stewart.
And I'm David, and we want to walk with you on the journey to living a life defined by uncommon action that is full of purpose, adventure, and meaningful relationships. Our goal is to refine our why while helping you find yours, and together achieve our best and highest purpose. In the end, we'll drive each other to leave the potential life behind and become kinetic men.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Stu, and hey, we talk a lot about real estate investing on this podcast episode, and for most of you know, probably that David and I are also real estate investors. We really love real estate and think this is probably the best way to create financial freedom for your family. Just ask my son. Hey, Wells, do you like investing in real estate?
Yes.
What do you do to invest in real estate?
Give my money to the bank of Dad.
Give your money to the bank of Dad, and the bank of Dad gives really good interest rates to him. But hey, if you're interested in investing with us, with David and I promise you we're not going to give you the same interest rate that Wells gets, but we'd be happy to discuss some opportunities that we have coming up. Just send us an email, stewart@storehouse310.com. Again, stewart@storehouse310.com. Go enjoy the show. All right. David Richter, welcome to our podcast, The Kinetic Man. Looking forward to this conversation. We're going to talk a lot about real estate investing today. And as you know, we've discussed before with real estate investing, there's highs and lows with real estate investing. David Goody and I just have been going through one of our real estate properties that just the tenant was about to move in and someone else broke in and just lit the house on fire. So we've been dealing with that for the last
minor damage.
Yeah, just minor.
It's only taken
damage.
like a year to resolve, but it's fine. No big deal.
Oh man, that sucks.
So sometimes we ask ourselves, why did we get into real estate? Have you ever had that thought cross your mind as you've dealing with rental properties and tenants and stuff?
Oh yeah. Oh man. Yeah, my background's real estate investing, and I was part of a company where we were doing lots of deals. We had about 100 rental units. 80 of them were like lease options. The rest of them were straight rentals. So yes, definitely have my share of those. But then also just in that company, we were doing about 25 deals a month in the single family space, but spending about 26 worth of deals out the door. So it's like, why are we doing this? So yes, I've had that exact same thought many times on this real estate journey. But yeah, it's definitely how I started out in the real estate game.
Yeah, and David, let's get into it. Let's get into who you are. One of the things that was really appealing to me about you and your book, so we run the Kinetic Man, and we have a lot of real estate investors just in our network. We're real estate investors and a lot of dudes. What's fascinating to me is a lot of the men that we, that are part of our group. One of the big things we talk about is finances, and it's not finances so that we can, make more money and be super rich and all that. If that happens, God bless you, and it's amazing. Really, most of the men's desire in the group is to create a line of income that allows them to spend more time with their family, to do things, to give them freedom to do the things that they truly want to do. But there's also a huge sense of, and we also recognize financially, that's number two reason people get divorced. And so we're super focused on building marriages and in our group and just a holistic man. And I think what's fascinating to me is that a lot of people get into the real estate game with the hopes and the passion and desire of the dream to create a line of income that enables them to do the things that are most important. Real estate typically is not. I've not met a lot of dudes that are like, the most important thing in my life is real estate investing. I've not met that guy. They're out there, I'm sure, but that's not the guy that I hang out with. So I'm just curious, tell us who you are and really to round that out, why you wrote this book and why this profit first idea is so important, so critical to successful businesses and creating these, ultimately these dreams that we really have for ourselves.
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm really glad we connected, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do with Profit First. What you just talked about there is that I feel like finances hold so many people back from what really matters in their life, and we use it as a crutch and an excuse. So a lot of us weren't taught about money. A lot of us don't know how to manage it, let alone you get into the business world and it becomes more complicated than income and expenses on, your personal balance sheet, of life. So that for me is a big motivator, because I felt like you asked me, to round it out, why I wrote Profit First. I felt like when I first read Profit First after having a real estate background, and I definitely look like the numbers guy, but I don't. I didn't go to college for accounting, for finances. I'm not a bookkeeper, not a CPA, not an accountant, but I read Profit First, and that book really transformed my way of thinking about money and about cash and like that. And I also saw the potential that I could also share this message and other entrepreneurs would it would also click with them too, that it's simple. It's just a very simple concept to get your cash in order, which is usually the issues that most people face. And like, why do people get divorced? It's not because they've got an upside down balance sheet. They don't know if their balance sheet's upside down or if it's good or if it's bad or if they've got equity or not. It's like, it's the cash in the bank. Like, do we not have cash? Well, we're probably pretty stressed out. We have cash. We're feeling pretty great, and it's like, that's how it dictates a lot of our life. So after I told you, like being a part of that real estate company, doing all those deals, and spending too much. The last seat I sat in that company that we were doing that, I was on the leadership team. I was actually sat in the finance seat with no financial background. So I was like asking the CPA questions all the time to learn the profit and loss, the balance sheet, and just learn from the school of hard knocks there too. But once I figured out we were spending more than we were making, it was like something's got to change. And it definitely did. Like a lot of us moved. Like we went our separate ways. That company kind of blew apart. The owner's still there and I love him, but he's just running a smaller company now. That's definitely more profitable and more for what he needs, which I'm very happy about that because I love that guy. He helped me, a lot on my journey when I was first getting started. But that's where I moved across the country and saw the exact same things in all the groups I was going to. I was still a part of real estate masterminds and meetups and the RIAs and all that stuff. A lot of the people that were actually doing deals made money but felt broke, just like us. Where's all that money going? And that was to me very eye-opening. And that's where I helped a friend when I moved across the country to Richmond, Virginia. There was an investor there that I partnered up with, and his books were a mess. And I was just like, we got to fix this. Like, you have to know what you're running and like what's at least coming in, going out, and what you're keeping. And we got it cleaned up. I helped him do that just because of some of the skills I had acquired at that point. And that's when he saw the clarity of where the cash was going and he didn't have to worry about it anymore. He said, like, this has been life changing. That's when I started my company, Simple CFO. And that's when actually I called a mentor of mine and said, what do you think about a company just to help people get clarity around the finances? He's like, I love it. I think so many people need this. He's like, you should read Profit First. And that was my introduction to that book and that system, in which now, after a year of after reading that book and having my company and then implementing it with real estate investors, I saw true change. I saw practical from I have no money in the account to now it's a year later and like we've got excess funds in each of these accounts and like I save too much for my taxes now, and it's like now they're having different problems, but much better ones. I'm like, I should write the book on this for real estate investing because of my background. Someone pointed me in that direction to be like, you should talk to Mike Michalowicz. So that's how I got that. I emailed him out of the blue. I was like, got a big real estate background. I love Profit First, and here's what we're doing. What do you think about this? And that's when we got on a call and we sealed the deal there. But that's how I got into it. And now my mission is like, I want to remove the financial roadblocks so you can focus on what really matters in your life.
Dude, I love that. No, Stu has a question. I just want to repeat a line that you said that I wrote down, put stars all around it. Making money but feeling broke.
Yeah.
I do not. I think that for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in the real estate space, I think that is like the mantra.
Oh yeah.
If you
Big
know
time.
if you're making money, even right. I
Yeah.
think I'm making money, but I feel like I'm broke. So I just wanted to highlight, like, I love that line. Stu, over to you. But that I just thought that was like I said, there's stars and check marks around that quote. That was beautiful.
And that was us, right? Like we were in a stage where we were, flipping, 40, 50 houses a year. And it was just a roller coaster every single month. It was like, we had this deal lined up to close that would be funding the next deal. And then of course something happens. So it didn't close on time. And then we were like frantically like trying to figure out where we're going to get the money to buy this next deal. And we're trying to call all our private money lenders. And it was just like, it was chaotic and it was crazy. I definitely felt that way. David, so what is Profit First? What for those that have never heard of it, for those who haven't read the original book from Michael Michalowicz, like what's the system and then how is it different from for specifically real estate investors?
So if you are listening to this podcast, you probably have an interest in the entrepreneurial space, especially real estate, or anything like that. And that's where you probably have heard like the formula behind Profit First, because like Rich Dad Poor Dad says it a lot, and like other books like that say it. It's basically, there's a formula. It's sales minus profit equals expenses, meaning I make a sale, I take my profit first, and then the expenses are there to grow it, to grow the business. And that's like the profit first formula, which is the mindset behind it. But in, Rich Dad Poor Dad, he says, pay yourself first. Same exact concept. The richest man in Babylon, portion of all I have is mine to keep. Or the 7 habits. One of the habits of highly effective people is put first things first. And it's like in a for-profit business, the needs of the business is that it's profitable or otherwise you go under. So it's like we got to build profitability into it in a for-profit business. And that to me is like, that's the mindset portion. Is like it's not bad to run a profitable business profitably. We've got to build profitability in there so you're healthy, and you have to be profitable too, because if you don't take home money from the business as you're growing, and especially if you quit your W-2 job and you jump full time, like you need that air, so you're not always constantly like trying to fight for air or like trying to go above water and keep your head there. Otherwise, you're just always making bad decisions. It's the decisions from fear rather than from your purpose. So it's like I want to make sure that you can actually feel that, but that's just the mindset. But the system, that's why I love Profit First. And that's why I wrote Profit First for real estate investing, because I think it went a step further than Rich Dad Poor Dad and all those other books. It said, here's practical way to do it, which is literally the envelope method, but on steroids for business. It's using bank accounts instead of envelopes. And you literally are just naming every dollar that comes through your bank account. So you have an income account where all the money gets funneled into. Then you set up different accounts to funnel all your income into. Like it might be profit, owner's comp, to pay yourself, and taxes, making sure you don't have big tax bill and you don't have money there for. There's also OpEx for your operational expenses. And I like for the real estate realm specifically having an OPM account. So if people send you money to finish a rehab, you don't commingle other people's money to finish rehabs with the money to actually run your business. It's like, so those are some of the root things where you can actually take a step further from the mindset and say, I'm going to set up specific bank accounts. I'm going to make sure that every dollar knows where to go, versus having the one black hole account where money gets sucked in, sucked out into the swirling vortex of doom. And then that's where you feel like, I think I'm making money, but I definitely don't feel like I'm making money. It's like I feel broke. That's where a lot of people end up with that one big bank account, because they have no clarity. I like to say that when you know where every dollar is going, that gives you intentionality, which gives you clarity, which also gives you the confidence to make better decisions for your business. So that's the actual system behind it. It's simply the envelope method, but just on steroids with bank accounts. And like the whole principle behind it is giving every dollar a name, being intentional with every dollar that flows through. So there's a high level overview of Profit First. And, I told you some of the buckets, but it's like that's where you can go a little bit deeper into setting up your own, Profit First system.
Yeah, and I want to rewind just a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk about the mindset aspect of it. Why is this so difficult? I think a lot of people in our network have probably read this book, and they still, I would argue, still feel the same. And a lot of times, Stu and I feel the same. And there's conversations that we have, even current day, like, okay, like we really need to get over this hump. Like every time we start a new business, we got like 7 businesses going right now. And every time we start a new business, I feel like we revert back to a mindset of not necessarily taking pay from that. And
Yeah.
it's just a curious thing and I can't name why I continue to fall into that trap. But I'm just curious, like why is this so difficult for entrepreneurs to really embrace, more than understand, but just embrace?
Yeah. I think you get into a lot of the psychological aspects of money when you start asking those deeper questions like that. It's really, how is that person's relationship with money? If you had a background of faith, sometimes it was beat into us that money's dirty and being profitable. And it's like you feel bad, even if you are profitable, about taking money out. Or it could be that you are around a lot of great people that are givers or like that like to give and do that type of stuff. And they almost feel like you almost feel ashamed to say that I'm taking money out of my business, because shouldn't everything go back into the business? Shouldn't I keep growing it? Shouldn't I just invest in more employees? It's like some of that as well too. Or it's like, or you've got the extreme opposite end where you've got people that they only would have an owner's comp account and just taking the money out and like not thinking about anything else. But it's like a lot of people though, especially in the circles I run in, fall more on the other end. They're scared to take money out. Number one, the biggest reason I think, even beside the psychological reasons, is there's no clarity. How much can I really take out, or am I going to hurt the business? Or like, is this going to affect marketing or payroll if I take something out? And it's like people aren't given a simple system to know what's theirs versus what is there for marketing and what is there for payroll and what is there for the taxes, and like making sure that when they take it out, they can take it out confidently. That's where a lot of people stumble. They just don't know. They don't have a good system to even give them that blinking light that says, yeah, yeah, you're good to go. Or like, hold up, like something is wrong in the business. Why aren't you able to pay yourself enough? And like giving them lights like that too. So if you have a system, it's easier to then ask yourself the proper questions, which is what I love about this. I'm very much I want to give you the best questions to ask, not the answer. It's like, so that's where with the bank account, now you're asking yourself, if something ran out, like my owner's comp account ran out, why did it run out? Versus like, if I just have one big bank account, all the money's gone. Where did it go? What are we going to do to survive? So it's like, that's where I feel like a lot of people have that psychological and emotional tie to money, but then it's also, they don't have a good system to know if it's their money or not. I would say that's a lot of it. And then I would say too, at least in Western culture, that it's almost like you need to pour every dollar into your business. You shouldn't be taking profit out until you're, bigger or further along, but they never tell you when, like when you should start. It's like, then you're never in the habit. So you get really big. And then I talk to you when you're at a couple million and you're like, I'm not paying myself enough. And this is why did I do this? And that's when we hear those things, because we didn't build good habits when we were a young business owner or a smaller business, had a smaller business that we were running. So there's some of the reasons that I see in the marketplace.
Yeah, for us, when we started our real estate businesses, we were still active duty in the Navy. And so we
Okay.
had, essentially a guaranteed paycheck the first and the
Right.
15th of every single month. And so the thought of paying ourselves, paying from our business account into our personal bank accounts, there wasn't really a need there because
Yeah.
of just the active duty W-2 income from our military jobs. So what would you say to someone like this, right? Like what
Yeah.
would you say to somebody who's a full-time employee, has a W-2 income, makes pretty decent money, and it's just kind of like doing real estate on the side. Like it's a
Yeah.
side hustle. It's kind of they're building like wealth for longer term. What would you say to that person, and just speaking to the mindset that you just kind of hit on about,
Yeah.
like, should you just continue to pay yourself, or should you just put it all back in the business because you don't need it because you're a W-2 employee? Like what would you say to that?
I would have to ask them more questions. Like, are you planning on ever having this be your full-time gig, or do you plan on getting, retired one day by the military or by your W-2 job, getting the pension, getting whatever that might be on, your 401k, whatever they give to you at the end there, whatever it might be. And then ask them, okay, if you plan to ride this out, maybe you don't need to take as much now. Like in the book, it gives suggestions for percentages to take out. Maybe you do half of that, or maybe you do a quarter of it. But the whole principle is you start good habits as soon as possible. So if your plan is to exit from W-2 world, or like, hey, we are going to retire from the military early, or whatever it might be, then it's like, I want you to have good habits going into it. So maybe pay yourself a little bit now. And then as you get closer to that time, you want to exit, you start to inch up the percentage that you pay yourself. So that way you get, you're out of there and like you're taken care of. Your family's taken care of. You're taken care of. We have to start thinking like business owners at some point. Like it can't, if you're not going to keep it a side hustle forever, then it has to be a business, and it has to be thought of like a business owner would. And this is what healthy businesses do. You're also not like Facebook or, these Silicon Valley big tech companies that get venture capital behind them. So it is dependent on you being a good steward of your money as well too. So it's like, this is also for you to make sure that when you exit W-2 land, that you're being able to take care of yourself, your family, and the rest of the team as well. I would also say there's a longer term play, that even if you have W-2 and you want to become a business owner, if you ever want to exit the business, you need to start paying yourself now and get into that habit, because one day you might wake up and want a CEO to take your place. So start building in that CEO pay, and then you could just live off of distributions down the road if you've built in a profit account as well too. So it's like there's also the today term play, but there's also long term of, okay, if I want to eventually even exit this business and go and do other things, but still have a business that runs, I need to make sure I'm building that in. So I would ask the question of what they think their life is going to look like, and still give them that I would still do something from owner and to pay yourself. It just will depend on what your goals are, how much that really is, and how long we ramp into the full amount.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating, and I would recommend folks thinking about a side gig to read your book, specifically if it's in real estate, but to understand the profit
Oh yeah.
first, because I think, uh, what's fascinating to me is what I thought was, you talked about good habits. What I thought was good habits, or what I thought were good habits, was to take the money and reinvest in the business. I
Mm,
thought that was the good habit, right?
yeah.
And so I think having a baseline of understanding not only kind of, where do you want this business to go, and asking some of those deeper questions on why am I even doing this? Why am I spending this time? But to actually, formulate a plan on what this looks like, what I want it to be, and then to actually put good habits toward it, real good habits towards
Yeah.
it. Because I'll tell you, it is, I would recommend anybody, no matter what size or what the side gig looks like, to create use this system, because at the end of the day, you are, no matter what it is you're doing, if you're taking action, you're creating habits, period.
Yep. Yeah.
And so for us, I would say it's something that we've had to really work through the bad habits. And I think if we started with the good habits, we
Right.
could now be in a completely different place. Our mindset would be different. Because like I
Yeah.
said, I still think we fight against the natural tendency to consider good habits. Hey, we just need to pour this back into the business to grow the
Yeah.
business. Well, ultimately, like you said, I love how you said it. When does that stop? Like, what is the
Right.
number? Is there a
Yep.
magic number? There's not. You'll just
No.
continue to do it into perpetuity.
Yeah, I love that perspective. That's why it's not wrong to reinvest back in your business. So it's like I never want people to misconstrue that. It's like I just want you to build good habits of making sure you have a healthy business while you continue to pour into it. Because I don't know if you're Keith Cunningham fans or if you've ever read any of his books, The Road Less Stupid or The
That's a
Ultimate
great book.
Blueprint. Yeah, but he says like if you scale cancer, the tumor grows. Or if you put fuel in a plane that's going down, you just get there faster. You just go down fat and harder. It's like I don't want to do that for you. It's like you need some good habits of around the health of the business while being intentional with where you're putting your money. Because if you put a system in place, even if you reinvest, you'll say, huh, how much do I have to reinvest? And like, if it doesn't go as planned, what's my backup? Like if I go in a new marketing campaign or if I try this thing or whatever it might be, you need to know that, okay, even if it doesn't go as well, we've still got the money or we've still got the resources to get, back to where we need to be or to at least weather a hard storm or whatever it might be. So, yeah, I love your perspective on that too.
Hey, I'm just curious. You had mentioned, being
Yeah.
good stewards of the money and of God's
Yeah.
resources. Like how would you define that? How would you define being a good steward? And I'm curious, what does giving come into this equation? Do you create a bucket for giving from your funds from your business? I'm just curious.
First of all, to me, it is being intentional with the dollars. God
Mm.
did not create me here to just be, like let it go willy-nilly wherever the winds take us. It's like no, being intentional with every dollar. That's why I've had many people tell me this, people of faith and not. They feel like when I get on stage or if I give this, they're like, that sounded like you were preaching a message. I'm like, yes, to me, this is a calling because it's like helping you be intentional. I think that's what being a good steward is. You're actually stewarding the finances. They're not just going out there running amok. Second thing is, yes, I do believe that giving should be a part of that journey as well too. There's so many different places, where I can reference, for the giving aspect. But it's like for us, if a client comes on board, we'll tell them, that's usually one of the accounts that we recommend opening is a giving account. If you've never thought about giving or if you've ever wanted to give, you give now wherever you are. Like even if it's a very small and it can grow. But yes, I think that's as well too. That's usually one of those accounts we help people, or tell people to open up if they're open to it. We have one, like with our company, it's a big part of what we're doing as well too, because like I said, being a good steward starts with stewarding it, knowing where it's going and then using it to the best of our ability. Because I'm not, if you're going to be profitable, there's probably going to be a time where you have that excess, even more than what you might have now, where you might start small, but then if you have good habits, they usually compound, which is great. Like you said, you take the action and enough good action, more good action follows. And it's like, then one day you wake up and you're like, well, shoot, I'm giving like 5 figures a month. Well, now I'm at 6 figures a month that I'm getting, it's like, that's what I want you to wake up with and be able to say, you know what, I don't have an issue with too much money in my account. Like some
Yeah,
people have
not a
when
problem.
we've worked with them. Yeah. And it's like, this is one of those things that I believe goes into stewardship as well, too.
But yeah, and I think, to reference the Bible story when it talks about the talents, right? And
Oh,
stewarding the
yeah.
talents, well,
Big time.
I mean, when you look what they did, they invested it, right? They made money off of the initial, I don't say gift, it wasn't a gift, but the initial responsibility they were
Yeah.
given.
Yeah.
They invested that money, and the one that was rewarded to him who much is given, much is expected. All that
Yeah.
stuff came from an investment that made it was a judicious use of the resources. It
Yeah.
wasn't, the guy that buried it, he was the last, and he was what's given to him was taken and given to the guy who
He
who
was
made the
scared.
most,
He was
right? He was
scared of the
scared,
master. And that's what most
100%.
people are. They're scared of their money. They're scared of it. They don't know what to do with it, or they don't have enough. And it's like, yeah, what a great illustration there. It's like just being very intentional with that dollar versus just burying it in your backyard and saying, I didn't know what to do with it. And like you're sitting at home on the couch the whole day, and like, or just going to work and not reinvesting into yourself. It's like, here's something that you can tangibly do. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was such a
No,
that
it's
was a good
great. It's great.
illustration.
Um, well, it was mine. No, it was
Yeah.
Bible. I can't claim
Yeah.
credit for the good word. So, uh, I want to, so obviously amazing book. Recommend everybody read it. Dive into some of the, you have videos on your website. You have different
Yeah.
different educational aspects. So I want to dive into the educational piece. Before
Yeah,
we hit
for sure.
record, you said, "Hey, I want to educate on this other thing I'm doing." Let's talk about that.
Oh, sure. So fractional CFO. So what the heck is that? I actually run a company that implements profit first, but is also a financial leader. I'm not a bookkeeper CPA. Most people, when they get started, they need that. They need a bookkeeper for sure, and you need a CPA to file your taxes. But once you start making any amount of money, like even over 6 figures, like your first 6 figures, not net, but just gross, like usually people then have enough money to manage and to say, what the heck do I do with this? I just broke my first 6 figures as an entrepreneur. Then the bigger you get, the more that gets if you have bad habits in place. So what I've created is a company that is financial leaders, is someone that comes in to say, what is the bookkeeper doing and are they doing it correctly? Where's your cash going? Let's set up profit first. And here's a dashboard, which is like a GPS for like, okay, here's what all your numbers have been and here's where it's projecting that you are going. It's literally someone that leads that financial department. So if you're wanting to be more CEO of your company, that's when you hire a fractional CFO, someone who's part-time. You don't need a full-time person until you're like at the 10 million mark, or above that even. So that's where it's like, I wanted to bring that power of financial leadership to, because so many entrepreneurs hate the financial side, literally just usually would rather hit a nail with their head, than look at the finances or just something like that. So it's like, I'm trying to make it to where it's someone who can talk to you plainly, who can speak, but business owner, and not like most bookkeeper CPAs. They talk over you, under you, around you. It's like, this is what the business owner needs to know. This is where your cash is going, not speaking accountanese. That's where I also give the equation, like the parallel of a hospital. You've got the bookkeeper and the CPA working for the hospital, which is kind of like the IRS. Then you've got the bookkeeper as like the nurse, checking your daily stuff, making sure you're at least, functional. And then you've got like the CPA you send to a wing to cut your arm off, usually to send off your taxes or something. But then you've got the CFO who's like your private doctor, doesn't work for the hospital, works for you to say, is your health overall? Like, let's talk about your eating habits as well as your workout routine. Like, because I want to keep you out of the hospital as much as possible. And like those things need their time and place, but like, let's manage this as much as we can here. So that's what we're doing. And we call it laying the financial foundation with every business we work with. So number one, making sure we get profit first implemented, because if you know where your cash is going, that's already power back in your hands. We also make sure you have the right bookkeeper, whether it's they're already on your team and they need help and assistance, or if it's someone that we need to bring in for you as well too, so you know where your numbers are. Because then we take you, if you don't know what a P&L and a balance sheet, a profit and loss, all that, what that is, like we'll teach you that to be savvier. And if you do know, it's like making sure it's correct. Then, like I said, third thing we do with every company is that dashboard. It's like takes all those numbers and puts them into there, and to be able to say, where are you going? What are you making, spending, and keeping today? And are you on the right track to keep what you really want to from the business with whatever your goals are? And like, are all of our money decisions based around those goals that you have? And are you executing on them? So that's what we do as a financial leader. And I feel like fractional space is just becoming bigger as as entrepreneurs, and especially once COVID hit and Zoom land opened up a lot more. It's like more people are open to the fractional world where you don't need full-time leaders a lot of the time when you first get started, but you might need leadership type help as you go on, on those gaps between, like startup and bookkeeper to full-time CFO, or, even COO and some of that stuff too being fractional. So that's where I just want to at least educate people that that's out there. And if you're like, you need help, especially in an area that you don't like, try and get someone who knows that way and can talk to you on a very simple level as well too. So that's a little bit about what we do and just the fractional space in general.
And I tell you what, the day that we decided to hand off all the bookkeeping to somebody else, to our CPA, our CPA does kind
Yeah.
of both the bookkeeping and the accountant stuff. Like it was like a weight just completely lifted off of my
Oh yeah.
shoulders.
I hear
It
that a
was
lot.
worth every penny that
Yeah.
that we paid for it, or still do pay for it. I'm
Yeah.
curious. So you had said, I heard something about when they make their first six figures. Is that about the time that you would say it would be worth looking into a fractional CFO? Like who's this for? Is it for the person who has like a couple rental properties, or is somebody flipping multiple houses a month, or like what's kind of the line there where
I
you
would say
that
if you're making at least 100K gross profit a year is when you can start looking into it. So, and that's usually if you've got enough rentals, then yes. But, and that would be like your gross profit. I would say after rent or after your debt service, are you making 100K? So you might need a few rentals for that. But if you're actively flipping or wholesaling, that could just be a couple deals a month. It could be one or two, depending on your deal size and where you live. But that's where I would say to start looking into it, because a lot of CFOs out there don't take people until they hit the seven figure mark, but there are some like us that go out there of like, I want to help you get to seven figures, but on like good habits. So we have different tiers depending on where you are. So it's like if you're newer in the business, you'll start off at a lesser tier, but with less interaction, but just for like, let's get profit first set up. Let's get the foundational stuff in place so you don't have to worry about it. But yes, they have to be doing, I would say, I wouldn't go into a CFO brand cold turkey, like I'm just, hey, no, there's no deals that I've done. I would start with profit first, like you guys had mentioned. Like that's where I would start. If you're thinking about starting a business, that'll give you a big shot in the arm that you at least know what to do when the money hits your bank account, that very first deposit. You won't be like most people who say, what do I do with this? Should I just reinvest all 20K back of this wholesale fee, back into my company, or this flip, that I just did, or whatever. So that's where I tell people, if you're just starting out, start with the book, start with wherever you are. And if you're not in real estate, there's other niche books out there, like for the construction world or for, real estate agents. It's not just the real estate world too. It's hairdressers, whatever you're in, because profit first is a universal principle, but it can be applied to the certain sectors of like, how does it fit in for here because of the nuances of that industry. So I would start with the book, but then, yeah, I would say you hit your first six figures, probably need a financial leader looking over your shoulder at some point to say, hey, yeah, what you've set up is good, and you won't have a $10,000 cleanup job by some other bookkeeper that comes in that actually knows what the heck they're doing, especially if you're in the real estate space. There's been so many people we started working with that they just didn't have the right person in place, and now they've got all this stuff to clean up. It's like, like if we could have just given you a bookkeeper who knew what the heck a wholesale or a flip, or like if you're doing seller financing or some of those more complicated type things, like there's people that know what the heck those mean and how to enter them. So if you're in the real estate space, you really need someone who knows what they're doing.
I'll tell you what, man, I thinking back on our days when we were flipping 50 houses a year. I wish we would have had a fractional CFO, man. Like, because most of that, like, we had a bookkeeper, we had a CPA, but like most of that responsibility was on me,
Yeah.
as kind of the numbers guy. Dave was kind of a high level thinker, relationships guy, kind of talking
Yeah.
to contractors and realtors and stuff like that. And then I was kind of tracking the business, money stuff, and it was stressful. It
Oh, yeah.
was, and we've scaled back tremendously to where we're not doing that many deals. But it would have been nice to have that for sure. And and David had mentioned we have multiple, like he said, like 7 businesses, right? Like we have a business that's fix and flip. We have a business that holds rentals. We have a business that
Yeah.
syndicates, multifamily stuff. We have a fund where we lend money out. So we have all these different businesses, and I know the profit first system, so to speak, recommends 5 different bank accounts, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, do you tell people like, hey, get 5 bank accounts for every single separate business? So, like, we were gonna have like, you know, 35 different bank accounts for like our 7 businesses.
That's when if I go to the general marketplace and tell people this, or I get that question asked, I usually say start with your most active income that's bringing you it, so you can at least start somewhere and see if you want to open it up in the rest of the companies. When we work with someone one-on-one, we're usually taking a look behind the scenes and being like, what makes sense here? Do you need all the accounts? Like, how is your fund run? Because we've got people that we work with that have 6, 7, 10, different entities, because it's the real estate world. So as you get, you fall in line with a lot of people out there once you've been in it for a while and starting to open up different things. Then it's more customized to like, okay, which ones need it, and like which ones can we like set up maybe a couple of accounts, but you just want to know what's coming from this. And maybe you've got master profit first, above all of it. And it just all funnels into 3 main accounts. We did that for one guy that had like 10 different entities, and he set up just like the 5 core accounts at the top, kind of like had a holding company where everything went into, and it was just like income and expense for all the different entities. So I've seen it done different ways. Just depends on how it's set up and like what the owners want to see and how granular they want to see it for each business too, from a cash perspective, because Profit First is a cash management system. So it's like, where do you want to see the cash in and out? And like, do you want the profitability from each and know what that is and being able to take the cash out? And are you paying yourself from each, individual entity as well too? And do you want it all to contribute to the pot of what you're paying yourself? So that's just a lot of the questions we would ask someone while we're working with them. But my general rule of thumb is start with your most active entity that's putting food on the table.
Yeah, that's I love it. And I'll tell you one of the things that I'm most intrigued by this you called it the fractional space. You said the fractional space is growing. What
Yeah.
I love about this is it really enabled people who are getting started and I mean folks like us, right, that are not necessarily at the place where I want to hire a CFO and
Yeah.
we're not. I mean, we're right around the corner for $10 million
Yeah.
a year for all of our businesses. We're right around the corner. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But joking aside, I love the idea of the professionalized help to really level up your business, to make it, to really prepare you for when it does
Yeah.
take off, whatever that means and whatever that looks like for you. So I think this is fascinating. I'm just curious. I'm just to continue education. Who are the people that do the fractional services? Like who are they?
Do you mean in my company or just in general? Like, I
Yeah, in
need
your
that
company,
question. Oh,
who are the
yeah.
CFOs that do effectively their
Yeah.
fractional efforts?
So this company has grown a lot larger and faster than I thought, just because it's hit a bell in the marketplace, like you said. Like, I gave access to a financial leader at a stage when most people wouldn't even think they'd be ready for it. And so we have about 30 of the CFOs on our team at this point, working with lots of people in the real estate space, over 130 clients that we're working with. And a lot of the CFOs come from different groups that I'm a part of. I'm a part of some fractional CFO groups where we all get trained being fractional CFOs and just sharpening the axe. So I like those people a lot because they self-educate and, they're growers and they have a growth mindset. I'm a part of the Profit First network as well too. So there's been several people from that group that have partnered up with us, and we have a specific training that we give, like our proprietary financial framework, a foundation for how we work with clients. So my big thing is finding people with the same core values. I run off the EOS system, entrepreneurial operating system, in the book Traction. So it's like I've got my VTO, my vision traction organizer, and like here's my values, here's my 10-year goal. Like, is this something that we align with first of all, and then from there it's here's the phases of becoming a CFO with us, like training and resources, then mentorship and guidance, one-on-one, and then actually working with our people, the people that are our clients, because I want them to feel the same care as if I was out there on the front line with you as well too. So get it from a lot of different areas and then just put them through a pretty rigorous process on the back end to make sure they're the right fit.
Hey, I want to take a step back to kind of the beginnings of
Yeah.
David Richter in real estate. Where did you start? Like where did you start your real estate
Yeah.
journey, and what are you doing now, and where do you see yourself going in the future?
So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in college. Good friend gave me that book. That's where it started because I had never thought differently than most people, go to school, get a job, go to work, all that stuff. So that's where I read that. Then from there, that's when I linked up with that company when it was a young company. About a year after college, linked up with them, and they were about 5 deals a month. So still a pretty decent sized company doing mainly wholesaling, but then they grew over the next 5 years to 25 deals a month. So that's where I cut my teeth. I bought some of my own properties through them and outside of them as well too. So I had some rentals of my own and some of those things that I did in real estate space. So I could actually get a taste of what the real estate world was like. I bought my first property before I had even linked up with them. Back then it was 2012, my first property. So it's like could take my pick, on the marketplace, HUD Home Store or the MLS, foreclosed houses still, in 2012. So that's where I got my first taste of it. But then what brought me down this road was what I told you about, was being in that finance seat, doing all those deals, not making any money, seeing it again with another one of my good friends that I partnered up with, Virginia, and like just helping him turn that around. Then I started this company, Simple CFO, with not even knowing what a fractional CFO meant when I first started it. I'm just like, I want to help people. I want to give them a clarity like I gave this guy because it was so transformational for him. Like, that's what I want to do. And then Profit First really helped me build a system around it too. As far as real estate goes too, I sold everything I have. I'm 100% in on Simple CFO. Like I said, this is a calling. People have said, why don't you branch out? And I'm like, I shoot all those squirrels dead. Like, no way. No shiny object, no running the squirrels, none of that. I'm going deep, real deep with this. Like, I want to get this message out as hard and as loud as possible out there because it's helped so many people. And when they really understand the core principle, it helps them with money just in general and really helps them to remove those roadblocks so they can be a better husband, better father, better wife, spouse, whatever roles and relationships you have in your life. It's like, if I can make money one less thing to worry about, that's what I want to do. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now and like leaned all the way into it. The only things I'll consider now are like if I do private lending, I still do that from time to time, like with the stuff that I have from the real estate world and from this business to make sure that I'm still touching it. But I like the private lending world a whole lot more now because that's a little bit more passive with the people that I've trusted over the 10 years of being in the real estate space. It's such a small world too. The real estate world. So if you start to get around these groups, these meetups, masterminds, like the online forums as well too, it's like you can build such a great network. I tell people I was building my business for 8 years before I jumped into Simple CFO because of all the people and the great guidance I got from a lot of good people too, and that I could call up and be like, is this a good idea? So it was a lot of people pouring into me, and now I'm like excited because I'm giving back, but I feel like it's a really making an impact too. Because there's not an event now, because I've been doing it long enough. This is what's so fun. There's not an event now that usually someone has said, I've either read your book or I read Profit First, and it either saved my business or it like I'm in a place now that I never thought I would be. And I hear that a lot. But I also still hear, where were you 10 years ago? And that to me keeps me going because I'll be like, I hope 20, 30 years from now, still preaching this same message and like helping people like this. And I'll be like, I've been around for a minute, so not sure where you didn't hear it now. So it's like, I want to make sure that this is just something I stick with for a long time because I also hear that message of 10, 20 years ago, I totally would have grasped onto this. This is so simple. Like, I wish I would have had this back then. So that keeps me going as well too. Yeah. And I've got some big giving goals because like I've had good people pour into my life. So wanted to give back in big ways as well too. So just lots of stuff that keeps me on this path that we're going down. So there's the answer to that question.
I love it, man.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. One thing you said that really struck me is the idea of getting rid of all your real estate to pour into this thing because it's a calling. I think what's fascinating, especially in a lot of real estate circles, is this idea that, like one of the things that everybody says, what does what do the rich all have in common, right? They do real estate. And I think it's fascinating because it's so myopic in its view. And I think it finds it's a bias confirmation, right? It's a bias confirmation.
Totally.
It's like a reverse engineering, this idea of wealth and, well, what does every wealthy person do? Well, they all do real estate. It's such an oversimplification, and it really, I think, is deceiving people out of a calling.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is if you're so stressed out about the real estate stuff and you're losing money because you think it's the path because every wealthy person does real estate. So that must mean I'm going to get wealthy doing real estate. No, that's not typically they're wealthy doing something, potentially a calling, and they invest in real estate to, but maybe save on some taxes or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's the number, the reasons that they do it are as numerous as the number of properties you can buy.
Right.
It's just a fascinating thing. But I love how you said, you're pouring in because it's a calling, it's a purpose, and you're giving back through this thing. And you also said, it wasn't lost on me, this thing grew way faster and is way bigger than I thought it would, right?
Oh
Well, dude,
yeah.
that's also indicative of your passion and placing it in the right place, and serving your calling, and the provision comes. And so I just love how you I just want to, that made a big impact on me, and I want to encourage you in this journey because it goes back to what we talked about earlier. I think you're giving access, and I think you're absolutely giving varsity level access to people who are not yet necessarily at the place where they want to be varsity yet.
Yeah.
And that is huge, man. That is so empowering, and it's a beautiful thing. And dude, I love it, man. I could, you're living, you could see somebody living in their calling and in their blessing, and that blesses others. And it's a beautiful thing to see. So I just want to encourage you in that.
Oh, I appreciate that. I've seen it enough now, like because I've had hard days. It's like I'm human too, and it's like this is not the end all be all. You still have to put in the time, the effort, even if you go down the profit first road. And it's like that's where it's fun to me because it's like I can really see that it's worth it. Like if you put in the work and you actually follow these principles, these are core principles that will help you, like manage that money to get there. So yeah, I don't have any plans of stopping. And people ask me all the time, what's new? Or like, you working on a second book? I'm like, I have a second book in mind only if it serves this calling though. So I'm like outlining it and stuff,
Love
but
it.
it has to serve what I believe the true mission and calling that I'm doing right now is. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Love that.
Yeah, dude, it's good stuff. Well, we could probably go for another hour, but we want to honor your time.
Probably.
I appreciate you coming on, man. Where do we send people to find out more about your
Yeah.
book and Simple CFO, all the stuff that you're doing?
Well, this was a lot of fun. If you go to simplecfo.com/gift, you can get my book. You can download the ebook at least, an audio book. You still have to go to Amazon for the print book. But you can go there and download that. I give the Profit First cheat sheet there too. So if you're like, I just need more help on this, I am an entrepreneur, so I understand there's a one pager for you. It's like 1, 2, 3. Here's how you set up Profit
Perfect.
First with
Perfect.
links and stuff. So it's
Yeah,
like
You know
just to
you're an
give you,
needs that.
entrepreneur, dude.
yeah,
You know you're an
yeah. So
entrepreneur.
yes, exactly. So that's where it's like get that as well too from that link. But if you just go to simplecfo.com as well, that's where you can find our podcast. Like if you just want to hear stories of people that have taken that, like gone down this road and like implemented Profit First, you could get some of that as well too. I'm just trying to encourage people on their journey. And then the only other people I interview is people I trust that, have either a service I believe in or something that can really help the real estate investing community. So there you go, simplecfo.com, or if you add the /gift, you can get the downloads as well.
That's awesome, man. Well, we'll put that in the show notes. David, this has been a fun conversation, man. I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you educating our listeners, guys and gals. Hey, go read the book. Start implementing this stuff into your business. Go get the gift from his website. And hey, let's go take uncommon action. Be better real estate investors. Be better business owners. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See ya.
David.
Hey, for those of you who've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that Dave and myself transitioned out of a 20-year career in the military, in the Navy. And there were some really big struggles in that. And I'd say that for anybody that's in a transition of changing an identity can have a really, really hard time finding a new identity and going through the struggles of figuring out what's next. We talk a lot about purpose. We talk a lot about tribe and community. And we talk a lot about mission. And those aspects of a transition are really hard to figure out. So you need a community. You need a tribe. You need to have someone in your life that's going to hold you accountable and help you grow into this new identity. That's what we do in the Kinetic Man. We have a lot of military veterans in our space that we talk through on a daily and monthly basis of how to figure out what's next, how to figure out how to continue to live with purpose, live with mission, and be incredible husbands, incredible fathers, incredible leaders in the community, and incredible businessmen. We have a ton of entrepreneurs. We have guys doing deals together, investing with each other,
and growing with each other to be the best men that they can possibly be, so they can show up every single day for their families and for their businesses. If that's something that sounds interesting, come join us. You can go to thekineticman.com/signup, thekineticman.com/signup, and come grow with us. See you.
Thank you for listening to the Kinetic Man podcast. If you are growth-minded, community-focused, and willing to take uncommon action to redefine success and live an abundant life, visit our website at www.thekineticman.com to see all the ways we can connect.
And on our website, you can find more information on everything we're doing, like joining our meetup page to get the details on our webinars and our local Thursday gatherings here in Colorado. From our site, you can also find more information on and sign up for the next Kinetic Man retreat and the next house of our mastermind group. Finally, we always appreciate your love and support. Please share this episode and go rate us on your favorite podcast player of choice.
Thank you again. Now go take uncommon action.